But the thing is I'm trying to figure out how you're continuing to run up attorney's fees, not knowing whether or not you can pay for them.
Since an information briefing with the port back in March, Vice Speaker B.J. Cruz has been researching the amount of money the agency's been spending on its legal counsel, the law firm of Phillips and Bordallo.
The port is understanding of his endeavor to make sure that the public resources are adequately and properly spent.
According to a press release from the Vice Speaker, he says after receiving a response to his Freedom of Information request regarding the port's legal services contract, there were serious anomalies with the port's records and cited irregularities with billing trends. The Vice Speaker wants an explanation, for example, why the port was being billed for services rendered 9 months later, when previously the average period between service dates and invoice submissions was less than 1 month. According to Port Board Chairman Dan Tidinko, they can appreciate and understand the Vice Speaker's keen interest.
We're looking at that. As a matter of fact, when this board first took charge, we wanted to grab a hold of the legal services because it had been running amok. And prior to the year the current legal counsel came on, we had estimated that there was probably about $750,000 worth of legal billings by the predecessor firm. So the board came in and we said, okay, let's get our arms around this. Let's be a little bit more responsible with how the utilization of legal services are rendered here for the port on behalf of the port. And we had put a cap on each year at $499,000. The first 2 years, there was no question about it. The firm had come in way under that, and we were pleased that despite the number of issues that were handled by the port and the management, the firm was working very well, and they still do perform very well. For this particular year, it's a little bit more extraordinary given the fact that there was unanticipated work, namely in the realm of personnel administration, adverse actions.
As we reported, 7 port employees were terminated for their role in an alleged involvement in a scheme to defraud the government and cover it up. They have since filed appeals with the Civil Service Commission.
Additionally, the law firm has been working alongside of the management as well to handle a number of the legislative mandates that are required of us, from making sure that we have those Polar cranes purchased, making sure that the contracts and the agreements are correct and proper, making sure that we have recently the legislation for the service life extension for the loan that's being processed through GITA and the Bank of Guam. So it's not without justification that the legal services have been utilized and rendered accordingly.
What the Vice Speaker may have been right about was the question regarding whether the port had 2 legal counsels.
One of the things that was kind of curious to me was he pointed out, asking whether or not we had another legal attorney. Well, we found out, unbeknownst to us, that the prior management was retaining legal services without a duly valid contract. And this is part of that is the prior management, some of which are no longer here with the port. So those are questions that are being viewed and analyzed right now.
The Vice Speaker, in the meantime, has requested additional information for the port's legal services ledger for fiscal years 2011 to 2013 to help him in his continuing investigation. Meanwhile, during today's Port Board meeting, General Manager Joanne Brown says she is finalizing the port's response and expects to address this at the port's next oversight hearing, tentatively set for next month. Reporting for Guam's News Network, I'm Ken Quintanilla.